The other day, I was perusing my second favorite news site, Reddit, and I came across something kinda odd. It was an article about the Counter-Strike 2 weapon skins market crashing. That's right, apparently people invest in video game skins. And this isn't a niche market either. There's billions of dollars in this stuff, just in one game. And Valve, the creators of Counter-Strike, just wrecked these guys. Whether it's intentional or not, the change they made caused people's items to crash in value by up to 80% basically overnight. And after a little more research, I learned that this isn't even that new of a concept, and it's not a new problem. Runescape, another popular online game, has had rare and collectible in-game items since the early 2000s, and they too have had their share of speculative investors and market turmoil from the developers meddling. Now, this may come as a surprise, but I actually think that NFTs could be useful here. Most people hear NFT and prepare to get pitched some scam. That's not what this video is about.
Oh, I get it now. It's a scam.
No, it's not a scam at all. I also had reservations in the beginning.
This video is about the technology behind the scams, and why I think that it could be kind of useful for lots of things like digital collectibles and more. Now, even though I'm a gamer, I've never played Counter-Strike since I actually touched grass. But with over 1 million concurrent players, Counter-Strike is incredibly popular. And the history of the franchise is pretty cool. It started out not as a game, but as a mod. In 1999, Counter-Strike was released as a mod for Half-Life, a revolutionary first-person shooter developed by Valve. This mod added multiplayer modes like hostage rescue and eventually a bomb defusal mode, which the series is more commonly known for today. The mod was so popular that the rights to it were purchased by Valve and released as a standalone game in November of 2000. Almost immediately the game took off. The game was simple to understand but extremely competitive. It was for this reason that it got picked up by the then emerging esports scene. Some athletes pushed their bodies to the absolute limits of human capabilities. Others just have to throw a ball around. Then Valve ported the game, they made a bunch of spin-offs nobody cares about, yada yada yada, let me know in the comments why I'm wrong, and eventually in 2012 we get Counter-Strike Global Offensive, or CSGO for short. It had more modern multiplayer gaming features we know of today, like matchmaking and gambling mechanics. The story really begins a year later, in 2013. This is when Valve released the Arms Deal DLC update, adding skins to the game. Now, in case your dopamine receptors weren't already fried from clicking on heads all day, you could obliterate them by opening up loot crates.
This guy just opened
He
it.
just opened up a fucking case mid-clutch.
There's also another element to these skins that's important to remember for later. These skins had attributes and rarity. They had color tiers, wear levels, different patterns, and other variables applied to them. And the players used the Steam Marketplace, also owned by Valve, to buy and sell these skins, and the loot crates the skins came in. But that wasn't enough. The market for this stuff got so big that players were hitting the $1,800 value cap for items. There were two other problems with the Steam Marketplace. First off, Valve took a 15% cut on transactions. How do you think Gabe affords his yachts? Secondly, the Steam Marketplace uses money in your Steam wallet. This money is attached to your account and cannot be redeemed for cash. It's a one-way transfer, from your bank to Steam, not the other way around. So sites popped up where users could buy and sell their skins in cases for real money using payment processors like PayPal. This led to an explosion in the Counter-Strike skins market. Then finally Counter-Strike 2 was released in 2023, and in true gamer fashion, everyone online complained about how much worse the sequel was, while still sinking thousands of hours into it. And in a very pro-consumer move, Valve made all the skins that people had accumulated over the years compatible with this new game. So, great news for the skin investors, right?
Wrong!
Well, while this did maintain the market, Valve would make a change just a couple years later that would disrupt it. In an arguably more consumer-friendly move, just last month, Valve added a function where players could exchange 5 skins of a lower rarity for a single skin of a higher rarity. Alright, so what? Well, Remember that these skins are assets in a marketplace. Market prices are ultimately derived from supply and demand. This new feature turned worthless skins into rarer, more valuable skins. This shocks the supply side of the equation, increasing it very quickly. Now players who wanted a rare skin had a better chance of getting one for themselves with this new mechanic. And even if they were willing to buy a fancy skin on the marketplace, now there were more rare skins than ever. So the lower rarity skins and loot crates that could be used to redeem for higher rarity stuff saw a moderate increase in value after this change. But the top end of the market tanked. Like in any other market, when there's a large, quick disruption, people tend to panic and sell off. So that probably drove the market a lot lower than it otherwise would have. It's estimated that $2 to $3 billion was wiped out from this change. If you're a normie like me who's never played Counter-Strike, this sounds ridiculous. Well, not that ridiculous. I've spent more money than I care to admit on Fortnite skins. But they're not the only in-game cosmetic item with investors. Another famous game franchise had, and kinda still has, multiple valuable collectibles with a real market that has fluctuated over time. The game is called Runescape, and the collectible that's so valuable? Party hats. The developer, Jagex, dropped what are essentially loot boxes all around the world for seasonal events. These loot boxes would grant random in-game items, plus useless party hats. At the time, party hats were just a waste of inventory space for players. But as time went on and it became clear they'd never be coming back, they became a flex. It was a visible sign of in-game wealth. Naturally, this drove the price up like crazy, reaching real-world values in the tens of thousands. Seeing this, the developers tried various methods to prevent players from hoarding these items. They changed the in-game market mechanics and made future drops like bunny ears for Easter not tradable. But those are video game cosmetics. At least they're actually rare and other players can actually see them, right? Well, what about this abomination? This, ladies and gentlemen, is called a mutant ape. It's part of the Mutant Ape Yacht Club NFT collection, which is a spin-off of the infamous Bored Ape Yacht Club NFT collection. The Mutant Ape floor price, as in the lowest price you could buy one in the collection for, currently sits at just under 1 Ether. That's just under $3,400 at current conversion rates. But at their peak in 2022, the floor price for these mutant apes was around 38 Ether, which is over $100,000. And that's just for the mutant apes. The Bored Apes, the Big Brother, the OG collection, those suckers peaked at around $400,000. Let me repeat, a picture of a monkey was worth over $400,000. Do you want this or do you want this? And that was the floor price. More rare apes sold for more. The highest recorded sale was a super rare solid gold fur ape and sold for $3.4 million. Just like the CS2 weapon skins and the RuneScape party hats, these are useless cosmetic items that are used as profile pictures on Twitter and other social medias to flex their wealth. But there are a couple of differences. The first obvious one that lots of people pointed out in the NFT craze a couple years ago is that I can just copy and paste these images. I mean, look, I just copied this multi-million-dollar piece of art into this video, no problem at all. At least video game cosmetics can't be duplicated without cheats. So you might be asking yourself, what the f is this dude on about with these NFTs then? The reason I bring up NFTs, really the reason for this video, is to point out that the monkey JPEGs are not the NFT. NFTs are a technology. The JPEGs are just attached to the NFT. I know this sounds like semantic BS, but there is a point to this, so stick with me. First, let's define what an NFT is. NFT stands for non-fungible token. Non means not. I don't think I have to elaborate that further. Fungible means replaceable by another identical item. So a fungible asset would be something like a dollar bill. You can swap out a dollar bill with another and it makes no difference. A non-fungible asset would be something like a trading card, a car, or even a house. Even if you have the same car as someone else, they each have their own individual traits and value. Things like wear and mileage make the cars unique to the point where they're not interchangeable. A token is just a representation of a thing. So an NFT is simply a unique representation of something. In the context of crypto, NFTs are a representation of ownership or voting rights. That proof of ownership and the rules that govern the ownership live on what's called a blockchain. In the case of the Bored Apes, the NFT represents ownership of the monkey picture. Funnily enough, the NFT doesn't even store the image. It stores a link to the image. The link is embedded in the NFT's metadata. The image data could be put into the NFT, but storing data on the blockchain is still pretty expensive for the most part, so they just store the link. So instead, the images are hosted on normal servers and only the link is stored on the blockchain. But while you and I are able to copy and paste the image and save it to our computers or phones, we don't own the image. Alright, enough contrived examples. How does this relate to Counter-Strike skins or Runescape party hats? Well, the rules around how NFTs are created, distributed, and can be transferred or traded are written into what's called a smart contract. Assuming I don't lose all my subscribers for making this video on NFTs, I'll make a video in the future going a little bit deeper on blockchains and smart contracts. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss it. But the TLDR of the TLDR is that smart contracts are code that live on the blockchain. And a blockchain is basically a giant distributed ledger. On a public blockchain like Ethereum, the smart contract is open source, so anyone can see the exact NFT code. And this code can't be changed once deployed. This is the reason that NFTs might have been able to save these video game cosmetics. Now, I'm being a little dramatic when I say that these skins needed saving in the first place. It's not as if people who put 20 grand into video game knife skins all of a sudden lost it all. The market dipped and it'll recover. But having the rules of the collectibles laid out in open source, immutable code means that investors know what they're getting themselves into when they buy one of these items. No more meddling from developers. There are other problems with the existing system too. In November of 2003, a Runescape user found and exploited a duplication glitch, allowing him to create a ton of new party hats that he dropped into the game. Meanwhile, NFTs are often designed to not allow minting after the contract is initially deployed, so no more forgeries or unintended dupes. And how many times have you heard of accounts getting hacked? Well, if you had trillions of computers performing trillions of guesses per second, it would still take longer than the age of the universe to brute force an Ethereum wallet's encryption. On that topic, if you haven't seen it already, I have another video where I go a little bit deeper into encryption. If I remember in editing, I'll leave a card somewhere up on here. NFTs aren't just beneficial to buyers and sellers though. It's common for royalties on transactions to be baked into the smart contract. So Valve could get a percentage of transactions even if people traded outside of the Steam marketplace. This applies to other cool use cases too, ticket sales being one example. The NFT tickets can be written to automatically give an artist their cut of initial sales, and the venue gets a percentage from secondary sales. They could even help curb some of the scalping issues around tickets. Imagine season tickets being issued as NFTs. The team could set limits on the number of tickets that can be sold or transferred out of the owner's wallet. Or they could set limits on the number of tickets one wallet can hold at a time. The smart contract would guarantee these rules would be adhered to. And to prevent people from simply selling the account or wallet, preference could be given to accounts with previous ticket history. And if that's not enough, every transaction would be on the blockchain in open ledger, so the team could more easily figure out how the tickets are being transferred around if an issue did pop up. These NFTs stay in the user's wallet after the event ends and acts as a sort of collectible that can still hold value even after the event ends, kind of like a ticket stub. There are some crazy possibilities for the future too, like property ownership. Imagine if the deed to your house was an NFT. This could unlock a ton of liquidity that right now is very hard to access. Imagine taking out a second mortgage in seconds from your phone. Think about how much more money you could gamble away. Lastly, NFTs are used for governance in crypto projects, and could possibly be used at scale for voting in elections. Services like Chainlink provide identity data to ensure that the NFT ballot owner meets the requirements for voting, but without disclosing the actual identity of the person itself. So, regardless of how you feel about people investing in video game skins or pictures of monkeys, the fact is, this isn't going away. People are never going to stop speculating on the price of random things. Whatever it is, I think people should have some level of guarantees when they buy something. Hopefully, NFTs can shake off the stigma they've earned over the last couple years and can provide some actual utility to things more people care about.